Back comes the cub. A passable imitation of a lioness. But it'll be a while yet before it can do that. With more than 1 million wildebeest and zebra involved in the migration, there are always animals moving down to the river. And however easy the crossings, there are always casualties. It's a ghoulish sight. You've got vultures in the water, you've got marabous, you've got all the attendants to the migration. It's not just that there's plenty of carcasses for the vultures and marabous to feed on, it's because they are so easy to feed on. They're rotten, they're stinking, they're bloated, they're damp. It's much easier for the vultures to break into the carcasses. And the marabous can just come in with those scissor-like bills and pick over the entrails, the bits of flesh. It's easy work for them. Those vultures, and we're talking something like 40,000 vultures, eat 12 million kilograms of meat annually. Imagine what a pit the place would look like without them.
She may be a super cool cat, but Amber has to deal with a lot of local harassment. Guinea fowl are notoriously noisy birds. They're sometimes used to guard houses. At the slightest sign of trouble, they let everyone in the neighbourhood know about it. Not much fun if you're trying to stealthily creep up on your next meal. Not that that's much of a problem for Amber. It may not be a big meal, but it's only been a day since she binged on Impala.
Even taking into account Amber's efficiency as a hunter, she's eating so much at the moment, I don't really understand it. But when we have seen her lean, which isn't often because she's eating so well, she still has a bit of a tummy. And that could mean that she's pregnant, which is incredibly good news because it also means that she'll probably give birth just before we leave. So fingers crossed.
Back in the marsh, the adolescent lions are up to their old tricks. One of the lads is off for his morning scrap. They're such characters, these adolescent male lions. Looks to me like he's seen a hyena. Go on. A hyena by the marsh. And it's no great benefit to a lion to beat up a hyena, but I guess he reckons it's fun. It's getting to be a bit of a morning ritual, this. First a lion chases a hyena, then the hyenas rally and push back the lion, then everyone gets fed up and finds a bit of shade. But things are a bit different today. There's a certain tension and a sense of purpose in the standoff. More and more of the young lions gather to intimidate the hyenas, and suddenly it all seems a bit too serious. But hyenas are no pushover. In fact, when the gang gets together, it can easily overpower and kill a lion. It seems that this morning, our lions may have bitten off rather more than they can chew.
Reinforcements coming from both tribes.
With the wind taken out of their sails, both gangs settle on a display of stares and mock charges, with plenty of posturing and posing thrown in. There's also a battle of the smells going on, with the hyenas and lions both leaving their mark, with tails held high and feet scuffing the earth.
Hyenas always seem so nonchalant when they're approaching a situation like this, and yet they can go from that casual interest sniffing the ground to serious aggression in an instant. Very impressive animals.
In the end, it's a stalemate. But if these young lions aren't careful, they're going to annoy the wrong crowd and pay a heavy price.
Shadow is really being given the runaround by these jackals. They just won't shut up. And Shadow is really fed up with it. That's such a distinctive noise. You've got all the animals on the surrounding plain. Everybody knows now that there's a predator afoot. It knows just the distance that it can get to that leopard without getting eaten. What the jackal's doing is moving her on. By doing this, by following her, by making a nuisance of itself, it's ensuring that leopard doesn't hunt in the jackal's area. Maybe that jackal's got pups. Get that leopard out of it. Leopards are the great dog killers, but in this instance, the jackals know exactly what they're doing. Here she comes, look. All Shadow wants to do now is get out of this area and to somewhere quieter. That suits the jackal, no leopard.
Fortunately, Shadow operates in such a large area, she can always find somewhere else to hunt. My suspicion was right. The jackals do have a den. And the parents seem to have their hands full trying to keep these youngsters at bay. They're obviously hungry. In fact, the jackals tend to have their pups at this time of the year, just before the rains. That way, there's always plenty of food. Thompson's gazelle fawns, impalas, grass rats, insects. And a termite mound is the perfect hiding place to keep those pups safe. But they'll do well to keep out of the way of Shadow.
The male cheetah, who shares the same country as Amber, has been busy recently, and not just with finding a meal. Males range over much bigger areas than females as a rule, and make their presence felt with plenty of aromatic messages. Kimbia, as we now call him, which means run, is a big lad, much bigger than Amber, and accordingly he can be a bit more ambitious when it comes to hunting. Whereas she's unlikely to look at anything much bigger than an impala, he gets excited when he spots wildebeest or zebra. And being bigger, he can deploy different hunting techniques, which, though they may lack finesse, make the most of his power and speed. One missed. Get ready for the next one. The trouble with going for the big stuff is that it is fast and powerful too. Tired and hot, he decides to cool down under one of the very few trees in this part of the plain. With shade such a rare commodity around here, you never know who's going to join you. After a morning of supreme effort, dinner, in the end, comes to him.
Back on the ridge, one of our cats is in serious trouble. This is Solo's mum, but I hardly recognise her. She has taken such a beating. This is just what I was afraid of. She was so close to the edge of her pride territory that she's obviously been caught out by lions from another pride, and they have just knocked the hell out of her. Look at the way she's moving. I mean, she's so stiff. Yeah, your heart bleeds for her. She's been mugged good and proper. I can hardly bear to watch it. It's just so uncomfortable. She's trying to settle. You can see she simply can't find the right position to lay down. It's just so sore. Oh, that's interesting, because we've got one of the pride males is here. Now that's really good for Solo's mum, because that's just the kind of protection she needs. It's almost as if he's just checking. Do I recognise you? He's sort of sniffing around her. No sign at all that he might attack her. If something doesn't quite add up, you're not acting right. You know, are you one of us or not? That's always the worry. At least she's got one member of her pride. Just looking at her in this kind of state, what on earth has happened to Solo?
Will Solo's mother recover, and will she find her tiny cub and be able to care for him? Amber's hunting success has been high, but can she keep it up, and will we see any rain? Find out in the next Big Cat Diary. And there's more about all the big cats on the Nature website.